The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Saturday Night Delight. Cheers to everyone out there. This is a rarity here on the Louie T Network. Y'all usually don't get these on Saturdays, but wife gave me the okay. Here we are. Number of topics to get to. This was supposed to happen yesterday. So I said, hey, if I can get on Saturday, I'll do it. Here we are. So let's chat. Salud to everyone out there on this glorious Saturday evening. So, first things first, I wanted to amend a statement that I made on a previous show, maybe 2 or 3 shows ago. Remember I talked about where the Commander's putting up a smoke screen? Really haven't talked to many guys that we consider, day one prospects. Hell, I'd even expand that conversation to they haven't really met with very many top 50 prospects in this year's draft class, right? A lot of these guys are either undrafted, guys that probably won't hear their name called through the 24th through the 26th of April, to late round guys, right? It hasn't been a ton of, okay, yeah, I can see where they're going here with this one. It's been a lot of them kind of, not leaving any stone unturned, right? Like checking under every rock, and you want them doing that. Absolutely, you want them doing that. But you're like, hey, when are you going to get to some of these prospects that get you all excited, And somebody brought up a great point after that show, and they said, well, remember, and I totally forgot this because I kept saying that we only drafted one guy from the top 30 visits last year. And I kept talking about Jordan McGee. And somebody said, well, we actually drafted 4 guys from our top 30 visits. He said, you remember, we had the Top Golf situation last year with Jaden Daniels, and they made a whole lot about having all the quarterbacks come at once and how it was weird. And I think the media blew it out of proportion because Jaden said it was fun and all the other prospects said it was fun. They had a great time. It was good to get away from the monotonous sit down interview, whiteboard, et cetera, and it worked out really well. I forgot all about that. I forgot all about that last draft process. And so, that person was like, well, maybe they might do it again. And I was like, you know what? Maybe next week we'll hear about them taking the prospects to Top Golf. I don't necessarily know if they're going to do that because that one was more so, hey, we're drafting a quarterback. This is a make or break selection. We're going to pull out all the stops. Remember, they picked Jaden up from the airport, right? They picked up Jaden from the airport. Like, they're not doing that for, whomever they take in the first round this year. I mean, they'll pick him up when they draft him. But, before the process, they really wanted to see how Jaden was going to react amongst his peers in that environment. I don't know if they're doing that again, but that was a great point because if I'm not mistaken, Jaden was there and the person told me, and I can't confirm this, I don't remember who else actually was there, but I do remember Jaden being there. And I do think there was one more prospect there that we took in day 2, whether it was Mikey or someone else. And then I think he also said that Javonte John Baptiste was there as well at that Top Golf visit. I don't remember who else all were there, but I do remember it was like 15 dudes they brought in at once, like 10 to 12 dudes, 10 to 15 dudes they brought in all at once to go to Top Golf. Maybe they're doing that again. We'll see. Maybe that's going to be their thing. But I did want to bring that up because we really haven't heard a lot of noise from the Commanders, right? We got 2 more visits to talk about tonight, though, and another private workout that we're going to discuss here in a second. But I did want to bring that up. But before we do that, let's talk, because we're going to have a Brian Robinson Jr. conversation tonight as well, because we've had these conversations before. It's just funny to see how, you know, the conversation has either evolved or de-evolved depending on who you are speaking with. But John Keim brought some clarity to the discussion that we've been having all offseason about the running back position in particular. He didn't drop a gem on our melon necessarily. We knew they were interested in upgrading the position. That's anybody that's followed this team over the last year understood that. But we didn't know in what capacity. Keim spoke to that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in tonight's show. But I want to start tonight's show with the news of the Commanders signing quarterback Josh Johnson to a one-year deal. So that closes the book on Jeff Driscoll returning to the team. Remember, we had talked about Jeff Driscoll potentially being back because you know we were going to take 4 quarterbacks to camp. That's standard operating procedure across the entire NFL landscape. You're going to take, 4 quarterbacks to camp. And so we only had 3 with Jaden, Mariota being back on a one-year deal, and then, of course, still having Sam Hartman on the roster. And so I was wondering when they were going to go ahead and solidify that. You weren't bringing in another young guy. You weren't going to draft someone. So I wanted to know what they were, looking to do there. I just figured they'd just bring back Jeff Driscoll. And I think he would have been the play had Mariota not re-signed here. I think they would have gone to Driscoll, but because Mariota came back, Driscoll was no longer a necessity. I still thought, well, he made the perfect third quarterback. I think a lot of us felt comfortable that if anything happened to both Jaden and Mariota, Driscoll could come in and be solid for a game or two if need be. We really thought he played well in the preseason last year, but obviously we never hope it comes to that, and it didn't last year. And same thing with Josh Johnson being signed. You hope it never comes to him even having to be active on game day, right? But they're going to make him active because of that emergency quarterback rule that they instituted a couple of years ago, which he was actually a part of the team that helped get that rule pushed through. That 49ers team in the 2022 NFC Championship game that had all the injuries. Josh Johnson was one of the quarterbacks that got injured in that game and, forced the 49ers to essentially put one-armed Brock Purdy back into the game to just hand the ball off, essentially. So Josh Johnson signed here. He is he's in a remarkable story. This guy has been on an NFL record, 14 teams. He's been here before. So welcome back to Josh Johnson. He was last here in 2018 as a member of the Washington Redskins, if you recall. And he is to me the mark of resilience. He is a testament to what dedication to the art and craft, to what it means to have perseverance, right? To maximize your opportunity and do it for the love of the game. Because most guys would have quit or given up after enduring what he's went through. And this was a guy that was drafted back in like 2008 by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been on 14 teams, as I mentioned. He's played in 3 different leagues, the UFL, the XFL, and the NFL, right? This man won his first career start at the age of 32. He's 38 years old, is Josh Johnson, okay? He's 38 years old, and he won his first NFL start. I think he's 1-8 in his NFL career, and he had already started maybe 4 or 5 games prior to the 2018 game he won against Jacksonville here as a member of the Redskins. He was 32 years old when he won his first start. And I remember the way he celebrated on the sidelines after, when we were in the midst of winning that game. And I just remember saying to myself, why is he acting like we just, clinched a playoff berth or something. Like he was really, but that's why it meant something to him. I remember when he first came in that 2018 season, and we were getting our doors absolutely blown off. I remember going live at halftime of that Giants game in 2018. I mean, it was the worst. Let me make sure I'm not mixing my years up. Was it 18 or was it 17? It was 18. Kirk was here in 17. It was definitely 18 because that was the Alex Smith year. And so Smith goes down. We then go to Colt McCoy. He immediately breaks his ankle. And so now we're scrambling, or as a wise man used to say, we were shuffling our papers. We go to Dirty Chez. He comes in here and he stinks it up. And he stunk it up so bad in that Giants game at home. I'll never forget. The Giants were ass that year. I mean, just awful. And they put foot to ass. I mean, forget about belt. They put foot to ass in that game. I think it was 36 or 34 to nothing at halftime. And I remember coming on live at halftime of that game and saying, fire. And, I'm not a JP. JP, shout out to my guy, John Perez. But, JP is a fire everybody guy. If things go wrong, it doesn't matter how small, fire everybody. Blow this shit up, right? That's not my move. But it was that day. That was when I was like, it can't get any worse. We got to fire Bruce Allen. Get rid, like Dan, sell the team. Like Jay Gruden needs to be fired. Everybody needs to go. This is an atrocity. And he came into that game and he threw 2 touchdown passes. He was so excited after one of them. He's in the end zone celebrating. I'm like, bro, we're losing 40 to like 16. What are you doing? But you couldn't steal his joy. Hey, I'm in the NFL. I'm getting an opportunity to play, bro. And it's that type of enthusiasm, exuberance that has kept him around so long. That, and he's super smart. He keeps himself in shape and he's always ready. And you can't be a bad dude and play on 14 NFL teams. You don't get that many opportunities unless you're a very likable guy. And he is all of those things by all accounts. And I'm happy that he's here. He's the perfect third quarterback, especially for what we have. You look at Mariota's athleticism, and then you look at Josh Johnson, even at the age of 38, super athletic. He brings a lot of traits that you love. He's going to be a great addition to the quarterback room. He said he spoke to Jaden actually briefly before we played the Ravens. He was on the Ravens roster last year. And, he said, very humble kid, man. And, I can't wait to, be in the same, quarterback room with him. He seems like he's a great guy. So he said that it's a very different, organization than the last time he was here. A lot was going on, obviously, the last time he was here. And he said that this thing has been A+ all the way, even down to when, every time they sign someone, they welcome them into the building. They got all the staff and personnel lined up and they welcome them in, applauses, all that stuff. He said they were absolutely banging out the speakers too short because he's from Oakland. And he said it just made him feel so good. He came in, they dapped him up, and he said it's been an A++ welcome thus far, man. The environment is just, and that's what we know, and that's what they've cultivated here, and that's why this team has a chance to not just be good this year or last year, but they have a chance to be really good because we just got good people in that building. They get it. They understand that the person comes first, and the more you are able to connect with them on an individual level, the harder they're going to play for you and lay it all out on the line for you. And that's in any walk of life. And I'm talking to you, if you're a supervisor, if you're a manager, or you have any aspirations of being in a managerial position, it doesn't take much to get people to bend over backwards for you. You just got to show them that you care about them. Take 5 seconds, take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes to talk to somebody. Find out about them. Ask them about their family. They'll tell you, oh, my daughter's getting married. And then the next time you see them, hey, how'd your daughter's wedding go? And they'll tell you, and they'll feel so good that you care. And you know what? It doesn't take much. Bring donuts for them, right? Feed them. Let them know. Pull them off to the side. Hey, man, I just wanted to let you know you're doing a great job. You know how much that means to people? So you can understand why the environment here is so good. They treat people in a way that most organizations don't. And so Josh Johnson being added to the roster, love the move. And it's another example of them just getting it, right? So understand that Josh Johnson brought in, smart guy. I think Adam Peters crossed paths with him, obviously, in San Francisco. So there was a working relationship there previous. Makes a ton of sense to bring him in here. And again, hopefully he'll never see the field. Just be a great addition to the quarterback room. But I digress. So let's hit the social media streets, shall we? Salute to that. As we go and we talk about some of the things that are going on with this team in terms of the pre-draft process. So let's talk about the 2 new top 30 visits that the Commanders have coming up. That would extend the number to 12. So you get 30 of them, which makes me think that Top Golf thing could be happening, right? Because, and again, you don't have to use up all 30. You just get 30, right? So maybe they get to about 13, 14, and then boom, the Top Golf thing happens and it's 15 prospects and bam, they're right there hovering around 30, right? Who knows? Or that could have just been a last year thing. We'll see. But I spoke earlier about the lack of top 50 prospects, right? The only guy that you could, only guy that was in the top 50 that they've had for a top 30 visit thus far is Josh Connerly Jr. That's it. And so when you see Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris being scheduled for a top 30 visit, it makes a ton of sense. And it's good to hear, right? Because again, receiver is something that I think a lot of us have, with all the moves they made at receiver, even though none of them are really needle moving outside of Deebo Samuel, a lot of us have kind of come resigned to the fact that, oh, they probably won't do anything at receiver, right? Long as they get edge, corner, and running back, we're fine, right? If they want to draft another offensive lineman, go right ahead. Some of you are like, hey, if they want to draft a kicker, go right ahead, knock yourself out. Don't mind. We only got 5 picks. Again, I'm working off of the assumption that we don't trade back. We don't pick up any more picks. Okay. That's what I'm working off of. Now, again, I fully expect our general manager, Adam Peters, to be working the phones specifically in the second round, because that, again, the first and the second round picks are going to be the 2 that are going to net you the most draft capital. And again, I don't know if you're going to be able to get back. We're going to have a conversation about that briefly a little bit later on in the show. But to see Trey Harris, who I talked about as my number 7 wide receiver in this year's draft class, 6'2", 205-pound receiver, ran a 4.5 and some change at the combine. And I thought was a really, matter of fact, let me tell you what he ran exactly. Ran a 4.54 40 at the combine. Physical receiver, strong hands, attacks the football, blocks in the run game, all the shit that we stand for at the receiver position, he embodies. And I think he's a guy that would, if you're looking to add some size to this wide receiver group, he would be a guy that definitely makes a ton of sense if you're a Commanders fan. So he is probably the highest rated prospect outside of Josh Connerly that we will have had a visit with. So that's an intriguing name. One that when we first started this process, I think a lot of Commanders fans connected themselves to Trey Harris and said, hey, we would love to get him. And then they got enamored with all the speed and the glitz and the glamour of the receiver position. And he kind of faded back a bit. And you haven't heard his name as much. Now we get closer to the draft. Maybe his name starts to build a little bit more momentum again. We'll see. But this definitely helps that discussion as he will be meeting with the Commanders. Now, this next meeting, the top 30 visit, is more in line with what we've seen from them thus far in this process. Carlin Vigors is a name you've never heard of. And I don't want to speak for you, so let me speak for myself. I've never heard of the name Carlin Vigors. Okay. Couldn't tell you the difference between Carlin Vigors and EJ Biggers. You remember that name? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. He played here. Anyway, I couldn't tell you the difference. You could have put EJ Biggers and Carlin Vigors side by side, and I wouldn't have been able to pick either one of them out of a photo lineup. Yet the Commanders are scheduled to have a top 30 visit with Carlin Vigors, a 6'2", 200-pound corner. Again, out of Louisiana, Monroe. Look, he fits more along the lines of what I thought a DQ corner would look like. 6'2", 200 pounds, can run, longer limbs, that sort of thing. We've been talking about a lot of smaller corners, the Jonathan Jones type guys, the Noah Igbenogany type guys, even though he's a little bit taller, longer arms. But, Mikey Samer still, we've been talking about a lot of guys of that ilk, right? Like even Jalen Smith out of USC, who played primarily boundary corner this past year at USC, but is more so probably looked at and viewed as a nickel. He's like 5'10" and a half. And I'm like, huh? That's not the kind of corner that I thought you guys were looking for when you guys came here. I thought you were looking for the big, tall, long, fast corner. Carlin Vigors kind of fits more in that mold. But again, Carlin Vigors, more likely than not, and I can't say that he won't be, but Carlin Vigors, more likely than not, won't be drafted. Again, I can't say that he's not going to be drafted. All it takes is one team to like Carlin Vigors, what he stands for, what his tape says, what his upside could be, and he could be drafted. But the likelihood is Carlin Vigors isn't going to hear his name. Yet we're having another top 30 visit with a guy that more likely than not either is a late round prospect or not going to be drafted at all, which again, it screams to me positioning ourselves for the event that you're not drafted, that, hey, we met with you. We took one of our top 30s to meet with you. So when we come calling, as soon as the draft is over, we want to be first in line. Because they're going to be 5 or 6 teams calling you, but you make sure you remember the team that when you were, going around making your rounds before the draft, we hit your line. We gave you some time. So just make sure you remember that when it comes time to sign on that dotted line, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. But I wonder, because a number of these guys that they've looked at the cornerback position in particular are either late round or undrafted type guys. And I wonder if that means that they're going to bypass corner altogether in the draft. Again, they could double up. They could double up, right? They could take a corner in the second round and then get an undrafted dude, or draft a guy in the 7th round too, or, draft somebody in the 4th round at the cornerback position and then get an undrafted guy too. That's not out of the realm of possibility, right? So again, I don't know if we can make too much of it and say, well, with all this attention that they're giving the cornerback position to guys who probably won't be drafted, does that say they're not going to draft the corner? No, it doesn't mean anything. Just they're doing their due diligence, right? And then we had a private workout. So remember, we've already had a private workout. So that was from Kime. The Carlin Vigors top 30 visit was from John Kime, as you see at the bottom of the screen. Here, Justin M. talks about Ryan Fitzgerald, who was the place kicker at Florida State last year. He is supposed to have a private workout with the Commanders. And if you already know, as you already know, if you've been, following this program or just following this on your own, we already had a private workout with the kicker in the pre-draft workout process with Andres Bergales of Miami. So if you look at Andres Bergales and the private workout there, you look at the private workout here that's scheduled for Ryan Fitzgerald. They're going to add a kicker at some point. Okay. And look, we already knew this. Again, this is not new news. This is not something that, just came out of anywhere, nowhere. We knew that they wanted to add a kicker. It's just interesting to see that they're being as upfront about it, right? Because normally kicker is one of those situations where there are going to be other teams. As you can see, he's got private workout scheduled with the Patriots, Ravens, and Commanders, right? And, it's funny to see the Ravens up there because for so long, they didn't have to have these types of conversations. They weren't looking to upgrade their kicker position. They had the best in the business at one point. But remember, boy, what a difference a year makes, right? Between his struggles last year and then, the Baltimore Sun or whatever paper outing him as a Deshaun Watson type, Justin Tucker all of a sudden is in a really precarious situation, and Baltimore all of a sudden could use a new kicker. So there will be other teams vying for these kickers. We will not be the only one. And so it's interesting to see the Commanders making it known, hey, we need help at kicker. Because you usually want to keep that because again, it's one thing to have Trey Harris come in for a top 30 visit. I mean, Trey Harris is there's plenty of receivers, and Trey Harris is going to get drafted relatively early in this draft. He'll be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the 2025 NFL draft. Kickers, though, are sparse, right? There may be 3 draftable kickers this year. And you want to keep it on the hush so that someone doesn't get the urge to, hey, let me grab him in the 5th round, right? Just to be safe, because you know how I feel about, specialists. Anything after the 5th round, do whatever you want. 5th round or later, knock yourself out, draft a kicker, you draft a long snapper, punter, whatever, right? Don't do it before the 5th round. But I would like to hold off on that as long as I can, right? 7th round, undrafted, if at all possible, you'd like to have him as a priority free agent, but you do what you got to do. You do what you must, right? I'm glad that they're, auditioning kickers and working guys out because we know they're going to add competition there, but I don't know if they're going to be willing to spend. Again, you only have 5 picks in the draft right now. Are you really willing to spend one of them on a kicker? I don't know about that. We'll see. But I keep saying we only have 5 picks in the draft. And I've been adamant that I don't think, because so many of you, and again, the draft will ultimately determine if you're able to move, right? The board will ultimately determine if there will be intrigue and will you be able to get out of said pick. For us, it's 29, right? That's been all the talk. Can we trade back? Can we get out of 29? I've said this. I think some good football players are going to fall to you, but it's the type of draft where it's so even, and I've talked about this numerous times, that why should I feel compelled to move up? If the same guy exists at 28 that I think I can get at 58, why would I come up? Why should I move up, give up precious draft capital if I can draft maybe not the same guy, but a similar guy, similar traits at least, 24 picks later? Why would I do that? Right? Same can be said for 61. Why come up to 61, right? When I can wait until 71 or 81 and get the same player, or at least with similar traits. This draft is very even, right? I want you to take a listen to Buccaneers general manager Jason Light as he talks about the draft this year and the prospects of potentially moving up or moving back and what he envisions this draft looking like. Take a listen.
I don't know about more. There have been where I've thought about it more than others. It just kind of depends on how things fall. You can't walk into it and say, I am definitely looking to trade back, because you don't know what's going to fall to you. So I do think this year is going to be, I could be wrong. You're going to see maybe a little less people wanting to move up and offering enough to make it worth your while, just because I think the draft is pretty leveled out at a certain point. So you might be able to get the same player in the second round, the same level of player as you can in the fourth round. So at certain positions. So I think you'll maybe see a little bit less of that.
So that was Jason Light. Now, he practically said the same thing I've been saying for the last month over and over again. Now, when I say it, it's just me, your man, Louie T. And I already told you, this time of the year, believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. But that's Jason Light. That's an NFL Super Bowl winning general manager telling you, who's been through this process numerous times, telling you that, hey, I don't know how the board's going to shape up. And look, the board could ultimately determine that some teams, behind us may want to come up, and I may be looking to move back just based off of what's on the board. But I'm just telling you, in past years, I've been working the phones at this time, trying to kind of gauge everybody. The phones ain't ringing. Ain't nobody hitting my line. And frankly, I'm not really looking to do nothing. And I'm not trying to give up what it's going to take to move up. When I look at the rest of the draft and I'm saying, why would I move up when I can get that same guy 20 picks later? I can just sit still and shit will happen, right? I don't got to shake and I ain't got to move. I can just sit still and a good football player is going to fall to me. So why do I need to do anything? They all look the same, and we've talked about this. There's some elite guys at the top of this draft. They'll all be gone in the top 10 picks, more likely than not. Probably more likely than not, all gone in the top 7 picks. Genty could be the exception to the rule, but for the most part, your Abdul Carters, your Travis Hunters, those guys are gone, man. Like, we don't even have an elite tackle in this draft, right? Will Campbell is probably your best tackle, and he's got short arms. He's not a perfect prospect by a long shot. So when we don't have oh my God, this cornerback is going to be like, we don't have a PS2 in this draft, more likely than not. Like, I don't see a Derek Stingley Jr. potentially in this draft. I'm not telling you that Will Johnson or one of these other corners won't ultimately be that. It just doesn't appear that way right off rip. We'll see. So there's some elite stuff. It's at the top of the draft. It'll be gone very, very quickly. Before you can even blink, bam, 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 those items will be gone. And then you just got a bunch of stuff. And most of it, I've said this already, starting caliber stuff. But are they blue chippers? Not sure. But I'm only trading up for guys that I absolutely believe in. And I'm only trading up for a guy like this early, because I'll trade in the 4th round. I'll trade in the 5th round, right? At that point, it's monopoly money. You give me your 4, I'll give you a 5 and a 6. I'll give you a 5 this year and a 5 and a 6 next year. Like, it's monopoly money at that point. But them early picks, your first 2 rounds, it's going to cost you. It may cost you a little. It may cost you a lot. But it's going to cost you, right? Depending on how far you trying to move up or back, it's going to cost. I don't know if teams are willing to pay that cost. I just wanted to put that out there. I've been saying it, but now when you hear somebody like Jason Light say it, maybe it resonates just a little bit more, right? So now let's talk about Brian Robinson Jr. And to start this conversation off, I want to go back to social media streets and I want to pull up a tweet from Lionel Willingham. You probably know him. You hear him on the radio if you're a radio listener. He works for the Team 980. He covers the team. I love him in the training camp portion of the season because he is so detailed with what he gives us in terms of reports from practice, who's doing well, who's not, et cetera, et cetera. So that's to me when he earns his keep as a follow on social media. But I don't always agree with Lionel's takes. I'm pretty sure you don't as well. Probably most of you probably don't agree with this take. I actually do agree with most of what he's saying here. I will tell you what I don't necessarily agree with, but let's read this tweet from Lionel Willingham, and this will kick off our BRob discussion. So he writes in all caps, which means you know he means it. Most overblown Commanders offseason take, BRob is washed. Trash, not good. He then goes on to say, I think he being BRob, can play. O-line struggled to create holes for him down the stretch. He can also be much better. Again, I agree with everything he said, from this being the most overblown Commanders offseason take. Yes, it is. By far and away. I can't even tell you what the second most overblown Commanders offseason take is. But whatever it is, take a mile and then you'll get to that one. This is first. Walk a mile and then you'll get to the number 2 overblown take, whatever that is. Okay. BRob is not washed. He's not trash. He's not good. None of that is true to me. So I agree with him. He says, I think he can play. I've said this all along. Even last year when everyone was piling on him, when he was struggling, he says O-line struggled to create holes for him down the stretch. I always look at the New Orleans game and think, oh my God, who could run behind this offensive line, right? Now, I'm not telling you. And then here come all of the Chris Rodriguez stands out of nowhere. Well, Chris Rodriguez ran behind that same offensive line, and Chris Rodriguez ain't do shit. You know how many yards he had rushing in that Falcons game that everybody loves to bring up? Like Chris Rodriguez got 6 carries and had 56 yards. He had like 3 carries for 8 yards. One of them just happened to be a really good run for a touchdown where he broke a tackle. That wasn't a well-blocked play, by the way. He just broke a tackle. Okay? Chris Rodriguez wasn't killing the shit. He had a nice catch in that game. And I like Chris Rodriguez. You probably think I don't. You're wrong. I thought he ran his ass off in that Tennessee game when he came in. He almost had 100 yards in 1 quarter. If you ask me if Chris Rodriguez is a more natural runner than Brian Rob, I tell you yes. He probably is. Probably has better vision, better patience, feel, all that shit than BRob. Remember, BRob was at Alabama for 96 years, and every back got in front of him. BRob was like, yeah, this is my spot in line. And every time you look up, somebody was jumping BRob in the line. And you're like, damn, BRob, how long you been here, bro? Thought you was second in line. He was like, yeah, I was. And then they recruited this dude. You might have heard of him. Derrick Henry, yeah. So I had to just wait a little bit longer. Like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm like, damn, BRob, it ain't your turn yet. Yeah, they got this dude named Josh Jacobs. So, yeah, he had jumped in front of me or whatever. But, yeah, I'm straight, though. I'm still here. Like, he was there forever. And every back kept getting in front of him, and he waited his turn. Normally, God, that's grounds for transferring, right? Most, like in today's climate, ain't nobody sticking around that long. After the first time you let somebody jump me in line, I'm out. He stuck around, and he benefited from it. And he got drafted in the 3rd round by the Commanders, and I think he's been a solid back. And I still think he's a solid back. And, you can't convince me because, Ed, love my guy, Ed. Shout out to Ed. Those who know, right? Shout out to Ed. Ed always talks about first half of the season BRob versus second half of the season BRob. Well, what the hell changed? You trying to tell me he forgot how to run in the second half of the season? He all of a sudden wasn't any good. He was dealing with injuries. That's number one. And number two, the offensive line was dealing with injuries and they weren't good. There were factors. Now, let's continue with this tweet. He can also be much better. Ding, 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 ding. And this is where I will expound upon that. He can be much better, but BRob is who he is, right? Like he's not just magically going to get better. His vision is what it is. His agility is what it is. His acceleration, speed are what they are. They're not going to just magically get better. BRob is who he is. But he's a solid NFL running back. I'm just looking for better than solid, right? For some of you, he ain't even solid. He trash. I don't subscribe to that. I don't buy that, right? Now, here's where Lionel and I kind of veer off, right? He goes that way, I go that way. He says, I'd draft a running back, but not early unless it's Hampton or Henderson. I'm like, pump the brakes on that one, because Lionel also went on in a tweet that he added to this one that he would not, if it's not Hampton or Henderson, he's not drafting a running back before the 4th round. Bro, whoa. Now, again, he might not be wrong. There's enough depth in this draft at the running back position where you can get yourself a quality running back in the 4th round. But to just automatically say, if it ain't Hampton or Henderson, I'm good on running back until the 4th round. Bro, that's where you got me. That's where we gotta, you go that way, I'm gonna go that way, right? However, we talked about this. So John Keim, and this is why this conversation came up, because John Keim had on his podcast a statement that was, and I love John because John does this so nonchalantly all the time. And I joked with him about this before. Matter of fact, last year when I had him on the summer series, I joked with him that John he'll say something and it'll just be matter of fact. It's a throwaway line for John because it's almost like John just assumes that you know, right? So John will say something to the effect of, yeah, the Commanders are looking for a 3-down back, and they're looking to upgrade the position. And that's a gem, right? You're like, wait, wait, hold on, wait. Like, we know they're looking to upgrade. So this is he didn't drop a bomb on us in terms of telling us that they were interested in the running back position. Duh, that's why we've been talking about running back the entire offseason. Like, yeah, we knew that. But the conversation, at least on this channel, I can't speak about anybody else's channel, and I can't speak to what you thought or what you were saying. I can just tell you what we've been saying on this channel, right? The conversation that we've been having is, are they looking for a 3-down upgrade, right? Which means BRob, you're done. Or are they looking for a compliment to BRob? Hey, BRob, we're going to let you do the dirty work, the 3rd and 1, the tough yards, the physical in between the tackle shit. And then we're going to go get a Travion Henderson to do all of the work on the outsides, right? Catch the ball out of the backfield, block on 3rd downs, get the outside tosses and outside zones and all that shit that BRob was running that he ain't had no business running, right? When they run those outside zones and BRob is hesitating and he doesn't have the vision to see the cutback and all that shit, we going to let Travion run that. When we bring you in the game, it's going to be power, counter, right? Shit that's running in between the tackles, right? Well, John Keim pretty much gave us our answer. Like, nah, they're not looking for, like, Travion Henderson can do everything. Like, he's like a Jahmyr Gibbs type. And I told you on Commanders Kings that I think the Jahmyr Gibbs pick by the Lions 2 drafts ago has made it less taboo to take a change of pace 3rd down back in the 1st round. Because if you didn't get an if you weren't drafting an Adrian Peterson type back, a Saquon Barkley type back, a guy that could do it all, catch it out of the backfield. And even Adrian Peterson couldn't catch the football. But you better be drafting LaDainian Tomlinson. You better be drafting Saquon Barkley, right? If you're going to draft a first-round running back. Look at all the running backs in the league that Derrick Henry wasn't the first-round running back. Josh Jacobs wasn't the first. Well, yes, Josh Jacobs was the first-round running back. And I like Josh Jacobs a lot coming out of Alabama. But you got to be like Josh Jacobs. You got to be able to catch it. You got to be able to run it, pass protect, all that good stuff if you want to be a first-round back. And Travion Henderson, Jahmyr Gibbs was looked at as a third down guy, catch it out of the backfield, speed demon, but not a guy you want to hand it to. That's why they have David Montgomery, right? So that he doesn't have to take that load. Well, or pause. He doesn't have to carry the load. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the Y'all know what the hell I meant. So I think everyone looks at Travion Henderson in a similar light as a Jahmyr Gibbs, where he could come in here and impact your team in that way. If you drafted Travion Henderson at 29, and there's momentum building for him to be gone, long gone before 29, the question then becomes, is he a replacement for BRob? I don't think so. He's more of a replacement for Austin Eckler than he is BRob. They don't want Travion Henderson carrying the ball 19 times and then catching it 7 more times out. That's not a recipe for success for him. There's a reason they went out into the transfer portal and got Quinshon Judkins, because they didn't want Travion Henderson having to carry the load at Ohio State. So what makes you think he can do it at the NFL level? That just doesn't feel like his role. But there are some backs in this draft that if you take him, bye-bye, BRob. It's it. And it feels like BRob is, this is the last year of his deal. It doesn't feel like he's going to be re-signed here. Even if they take a complimentary back this year, a guy that's a home run threat, but not really your every down back, I still feel like they're going to draft that guy next year then. Like, this feels like it's it for BRob, no matter what. But there's a big difference between drafting an Omarion Hampton or drafting a Brashard Smith, right? Brashard Smith is a change of pace back, right? He doesn't feel like he's 193 pounds, right? Like 196 pounds. He's not your every down back, but he can hit the home run, right? That's what we need. So BRob would, in effect, still be a first and second down type back with Brashard Smith coming in and filling in the gaps, with Eckler still being a big part of this offense. Like, that's how that would look. You draft Omarion Hampton, when the hell is BRob going to see the field? When is he going to get touches? Because as far as I'm concerned, it might start out with BRob as your lead back early in the season, and then they'll work in Omarion Hampton. But as the season wears on, and as soon as BRob, tweaks that knee or whatever, Omarion Hampton's taking over. He's your lead back. Eckler's still getting the leftover touches. Eckler's still out there catching it out of the backfield. There's no place for Brian Robinson Jr. So it's a difference. It's a big difference as to who they draft and how that affects Brian Robinson Jr. Now, I still contend that no matter what, he's gone. He's gone after this year. I don't know about you, but I just don't see Brian Robinson Jr. rising up. And the Lord says you got to rise up and get 1,500 yards. He ain't just magically, the man ain't had 1,000-yard season in his career, and just magically he's just going to have 1,426 yards this year and 14 touchdowns? Hell no. That ain't happening. So unless he just absolutely turns into something that we just haven't seen from him, this is it for him. The question is, this is where I'm at with the conversation, because we know what BRob is, or at least some of us do. Some of you think he stinks, he's trash, he's garbage. You rather see Chris Rodriguez, and that's fine. Like, I don't want to argue with you, because there's not, to me, there's the difference between the two of them isn't great enough for me to have an argument with you. Okay. Like, neither one of them are what I'm looking for necessarily, but both of them can serve a purpose. They both can serve a purpose. And for the Chris Rodriguez stands out there, who knows? They brought Chris Rodriguez back for a reason, right? They could have let him walk away. They didn't like Chris Rodriguez. They could have let him go. They did not have to tender that man, right? They did not have to put a tender on him. They could give him an opportunity to compete this offseason. If he comes into camp, because last year, I remember he was out of shape. If he comes into camp in shape, ready to rock and roll, who's to say that they don't give him an opportunity to compete with Brian Robinson for carries, for snaps this year? They brought him back for a reason. Remember, BRob's on a one-year deal. Chris Rodriguez is on a one-year deal. So, again, it's not like Luke McCaffrey where, hey, we got this dude for 3 years. So if everything's equal, we going with Luke McCaffrey because he's a part of the future. Brian Robinson Jr. and Chris Rodriguez got the same opportunity because next year, the likelihood is neither one of them will be here. And that's just giving you the facts. Like, there's a good chance that neither one of those dudes are back next year. It really feels like this is it for Brian Robinson. Remember, they're cleaning out the old guard. They came in here and they wiped this team clean of the stench of the last organization and all their mistakes. They only left the guys here that served a purpose. If you didn't show what your worth was last year, they got rid of dudes in season. Like, they didn't give a shit. They cut dudes in season. A former first-round pick that we took 2 years ago, cut him in season. Deuces. Jamin Davis told that man, make a position switch, cut his ass before the season started. Peace. They don't give a shit about guys that they did not draft. They're not going to cut Brian Robinson Jr., but they are definitely looking for his replacement. I don't blame them. But for the crowd that says he can't play, I think that's false. I think that's false. And I wouldn't be shocked. Again, the board will dictate what they do. I wouldn't be shocked if they, instead of drafting his replacement, because again, a replacement looks different than a complimentary back, right? There's a certain level of back that you would have to draft for that guy to then be a BRob replacement. Brian Robinson Jr. is 220 pounds, folks. Like, you're not drafting a 196-pound, 203-pound back and asking him to do what Brian Robinson Jr. does. Don't fool yourself, okay? If you draft a 214-pound running back, that guy's coming here to replace Brian Robinson Jr. If you draft a 203-pound running back, a 205-pound running back, that guy's coming here to complement Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. Keep that in mind. They'll tell us. And again, it may be less of them telling us what they want, and it may just be more of what the board says you can have, right? But again, we'll see what ultimately happens. So let's get to the comment section, and then we will get out of here. Swaggy P, my guy. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Thank you. My guy, Swaggy P writes, I still remember that Jags game in 2018. Made me feel like we had a chance to make the playoffs. Just needed another clutch performance versus the Titans. Oh, yeah. I remember that like it was yesterday. That Jags game gave us hope. That Titans game was on a Saturday. We beat the Jags, and then we played the Titans on a Saturday. And we were in that game. And I don't know if you remember, but see, I'm going into mental Rolodex. You didn't force me to go into the mental Rolodex, but you know I can do it. We had Michael Floyd on that 2018 roster. Oh, that's nasty. Back into the career of Michael Floyd. He was still relatively young at that time. And he came in here and he fumbled at like the 2-yard line. A perfect pass, should have scored. I don't want to say it was perfect pass, but he caught it, should have scored, got hit, fumbled. And when you start looking back on why we didn't win the game, it was a very close game. That was one of those plays that you was like, damn. But I remember that game very vividly because we lost, and it was a very frustrating season because Alex Smith got his knee shredded, and then Colt McCoy got hurt, and then the season went to hell in a handbasket. And Josh gave us a spark, and then we lost. And then the last game of the season was against the Eagles, and I just remember how bad of a game that was. We didn't even score a single point. I think we got shut out like 17-0 or something like that. And how many Eagles fans were there? And I just remember thinking, this is awful. This is bad. I mean, really bad. And I didn't know if Jay was going to make it after that, the way that season ended. And that's kind of what set the stage for 2019. Jay was already on thin ice. He didn't want Dwayne Haskins. He would have preferred Drew Lock, but he just really wanted to start Colt, and he would have been fine with just starting Colt. And Snyder forced Dwayne on him. God rest his soul. The rest is history. Jay gets fired 5 games into the next season. 19 was a disaster. Anyway, I digress. Yikes. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, Lou! Josh Johnson was the black Alex Smith for us. I think he was a little bit better than that. But I can see where you're going with that because, you know, he wasn't throwing anything vertically down the field, but really, did we have anything vertically for him? That was pre-Terry McLaurin, if you remember. Like, I don't think we had a lot to you know, give him to work with at the receiver position at that time. I think all he had was like literally was Jamison Crowder. It wasn't a lot on the roster at that time. But he could run like Alex Smith could, and you know, extend things, but it was a lot of underneath throws for sure. I guess you could call him that. I guess you could call him that. Blake Taylor, my guy Blake, I've been meaning to reach out to you to ask you if you got your money. You should have gotten it via Venmo. I've been meaning to ask you that, but I'm glad that you reached out so I could ask you if you got your money because it was supposed to be sent to you. Been a member for 6 months. Really appreciate you. Writes Louie, wanted to say cheers. My lady had her baby. Cheers, my guy. That deserves a cheers. Love it when new life is breathed, is birth into this world. May you and your lady make great parents, loving parents, cherish that child, Rear it in the way that it's supposed to be reared. And may blessings be bestowed upon you and your family and your newest addition. Cheers, Blake. Cheers. I love it. Congratulations. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, BRob slander is wild. Man can play his power role well. I would like to see Bates or Sennett in front of him more. I too think he would benefit from a fullback. I think running backs who have tremendous vision don't want more guys around them, right? Like Adrian Peterson didn't want a fullback. He preferred single back because he could see, right? I don't want my vision being clouded by more bodies, even though they had Jim Klein saucer, right, in front of him sometimes. He preferred single back. Some backs like the fullback, like LT loved having Lorenzo Neal in front of him leading the way. Emmitt Smith loved having Moose Johnston in front of him. So some guys love having a fullback. Not all do, but I think he would benefit from having a fullback in front of him or someone as a lead blocker. But the BRob slander ain't wild as much as it's just out of control. Like somebody in the comment section literally said, BRob adds zero value to this team. That's insane. That is an insane statement. This is all I have to say. And I'll just leave it at this. BRob got hurt and wasn't able to play in that week 6 game versus the Ravens. I believe it was week 6. We were 4-1 in going into that week 6 contest versus the Ravens. And he wasn't able to play. And what did we come out of that game saying? Boy, did we miss BRob's physicality. Man, he would have made a difference in this game, right? That was the conversation after that game. Let's not act like BRob wasn't playing well early in the season, because he was. He had a career high. You could argue he was one of the biggest reasons that we beat the Giants the first time. He had a career high rushing total in that game. We really didn't do much well offensively, like from a touchdown. Like we didn't score any touchdowns. Like we didn't punt that game. But a lot of what we were able to do in that game was BRob running the football. Remember, Jaden hadn't broken out as a passer yet. That didn't happen till the following week against Cincinnati on the road. So, again, as much as we want to, as much as some of you out there want to diminish BRob and the role that he played on his team, this offense was always at its best. And again, I'm not telling you that BRob is the perfect running back. I'm not telling you that he's this phenomenal NFL running back. What I'm telling you is he's a quality starting NFL running back. He's a solid. You must not be watching the rest of the league because there's a lot worse that are around the league starting for their NFL teams than Brian Robinson Jr. Okay, a lot of teams would take Brian Robinson Jr. as a 1-2 punch as a part of their backfield, right? He may not be this dynamic, 3-down back. We know that he's not that, but he's a solid NFL running back. To say that he's anything less than that is crazy to me. But to say that he had zero value to this offense. In the games that we were at our best offensively this season, but Brian Robinson Jr. was a part of that, a big part of that. The run game as a whole was a big part of it, but Brian Robinson Jr. in particular was a big part of that. The Arizona game, the Cincinnati game, even though Brian Robinson Jr. didn't have a good game at all, it was his worst game of the season. Still, his presence, his impact down by the goal line, getting in the end zone. The Arizona game, he was really good in that game. But to me, the best game of the season offensively that we had was the Detroit game. And that Detroit game was a lot like Brian Robinson Jr. early in the season. And the offensive line was blocking its ass off in that game. And again, he's a guy that needs holes. He needs to see green grass and daylight. He's not going to see that cutback. And I get it. His vision isn't great. He doesn't have the best feet. I understand that he doesn't have great acceleration or top end speed. I'm aware of all that. We knew that when we drafted him. Like, let's not act surprised all of a sudden, like he just started to diminish as a running back. Like his skill set and his traits all of a sudden just went away. This is what he was at Alabama. That's why he got jumped in line at Alabama. We knew what we were drafting. We knew what we were getting. And he's been what we thought he was going to be. And, health hasn't always been on his side. He's missed some games the last 2 seasons, and that's kind of hampered him. He would have had 1,000 yards rushing probably each of the last 2 seasons had he been fully healthy. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is we need better. I agree with most of you. We need better at the position. We should be looking for better. And they are clearly actively looking for better. But let's not act like Brian Robinson Jr. is the worst starting running back in the NFL, because some of you are conducting yourselves as if that is the case. All right. So I digress. Anyway, that is the final super chat. So that means my time is up. But I want to thank each and every single one of you for joining me tonight on this Saturday night delight. As we continue to get closer and closer to the start of the 2025 NFL draft. And I think things are really starting to heat up draft-wise. Now, as you get closer and closer, all of that, those smoke and mirrors start to fade, and the reels start to rise to the top. Keep rising to the top. Now we're starting to see all of that rise to the top, like Trey Harris being a top 30 visit. That makes a ton of sense. We're getting closer to the draft. Maybe we'll see one of those top golf outings from the Commanders where they bring in 10, 12 prospects all at once and get to know them that way. I don't know if we're going to see that this year. I think that was a quarterback exclusive, but who knows? We'll see. Maybe that's something that they do bring back this year, but I digress. Anyway, you guys, continue to support. Make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't already done so, really, truly do appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Continue to watch all the content that's coming out for the draft. I've got plenty of draft content. Put out another Commanders video earlier about what picks would be the best value for the Commanders at the receiver position for each of their picks, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. I've done that at the running back position in addition to edge rusher. So keep all of those in mind and check those out as well. But with that said, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys know what it is. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and good night.